Hello, welcome back to Map Time with Professor Prime, and I'm your host as always, Professor Prime. And today we're talking about math and legendary Pokemon. Numerically speaking, they are the best of the best, the creme de la creme. In general, right, we have our own preferences for Pokemon, right? We have Pokemon that we like, that are our favorites, right? We have Pokemon that we prefer to use in battle. We have Pokemon that we can use with like unique strategies that could give us the advantage in battle, right? So you can take on a legendary Pokemon, and you can be fine. But back to that numerical part. Numerically speaking, these are the Pokemon with the higher stats, right? These are the Pokemon that are at the tippy top. On average, legendary Pokemon have base stats of 630. Again, on average. Individually, it could be as low as like around 530 up until 720 because we're not counting mega evolutions in this. But we can get to that too, right? Like, let's talk about it some more. As we do, I'm going to talk about legendary Pokemon is the main point, but I will touch on mythical Pokemon and pseudo legendary Pokemon because they're in the conversation and it could all be pretty confusing. So when it comes to legendary Pokemon, right, these are the Pokemon that they're part of the Pokemon mythos. They create that, right, and in that mythos, they're usually creating the world itself. But with that in mind, these are the Pokemon that you usually encounter, and you can like see their sprite, and they're usually really high level. Like for instance, some have been as high as 70, things like that, right? So there's a lot of math in like bringing the sense of gravitas that comes with legendary Pokemon, right? Because again, like back to the base stats. Like when you look at the big picture, it's all really high. Like, and there's something to be said about that, right? Because when you're talking about HP and attack, defense, special defense, and speed, like they are incredibly hard hitting, right? Incredibly fast, incredibly powerful. And you get like a Pokemon like Mewtwo, for instance. The base stats for Mewtwo, again, not counting Mega Evolutions, is 680. With Rayquaza tying for that. But then you have a Pokemon like Arceus, which is like at that tippy top for again ones that don't use Mega Evolution at 720. And to this day, I don't think that base level has been surpassed, but Mega Evolutions do change the game a bit. But the whole point that I want to bring up with these is like again, numerically speaking, they come at a different level from other Pokemon. They typically have unique techniques. Now, they're usually designed to be this way, right? To appeal to people, to give that sense of gravitas, give that sense of scale. So we see like the numbers working in this way, along with their appearance and how you use in battle, how you use them in battle. And if you're going to some tournaments, you may be restricted to use one if they let you use them at all. And I feel like that's saying something. And with these legendary Pokemon, you usually have like your main ones, but there's usually several in a given game. Like there's been no less than 3 legendaries in the main game so far. Like with 6 being the lowest level of legendaries with 3. But even as early as the first games, there's been 5. And it's been different levels. But my whole point is that there are different legendaries in the game, and they sometimes come in duos and sometimes trios. And I think there's something to be said about that connection too. And they usually kind of offset each other, and I think that's really cool. With that in mind, if you've ever like looked into how many legendary Pokemon there are, currently speaking, at the time of this recording, there are 59 legendary Pokemon out of the 901 species that we currently have. We are definitely going to hit 1,000 like someday. Like give it that 9th generation, or maybe if they pull back a little, the 10th. But they'll get there. But with that being in mind, like 59 out of 901. So at this point, we've had enough legendaries to say that we have nearly 60. And when you're looking at that out of the total number of Pokemon, that's nearly 7%. it's not a high number, but it's pretty considerable, especially given like how they're supposed to be in story, especially if you believe the Pokédex and the myths that are associated with them. Like seriously, there are some of these legendaries that could literally end the world if they die, and it's like it's wild to me. So again, these are powerful Pokemon, and a lot of people like legendaries, and for good reason. They have that major scale of power, and they usually look cool. And then so you have legendaries on their own, but then you have the idea that like some legendaries can mega evolve, like Mewtwo and Rayquaza can mega evolve, and Mega Mewtwo and Mega Rayquaza, their base stats like are 780, utterly ridiculous, utterly broken. And Mega Rayquaza, I think in particular, is kind of broken, but there's a whole thing with that because like Dragon Ascent, you need Dragon Ascent to, have Mega Rayquaza, and it's a pretty decent move. And if I'm not mistaken, it gets rid of some of the weaknesses that Mega Rayquaza would have. And if you're wondering, I've been trying to like go back and forth with how I wanted to pronounce that because I've heard Rayquaza and I've heard Rayquaza, and at this point it's like both work. Also with Mega Mewtwo, it is worth noting that it does have two forms, Mega Mewtwo X and Mega Mewtwo Y, and I forget which one has the higher of the total. They might be even, but differently distributed. But my whole point is that legendary Pokemon are really, really powerful. And numbers help convey that. They help give you that sense of gravitas. Again, you can beat a legendary. You can beat a Pokemon that has better stats than you. But they are at the tippy top. Now, with that being said, I wanted to talk about a few more things. So, with mythical Pokemon, if you're wondering, it can be confusing. It's normally understood at this point that they're the type of Pokemon that are pretty powerful, much like legendary Pokemon, but maybe not quite on that same level. But more importantly than that, they're the Pokemon that maybe you can only get in an event. And, there's something to be said about that. Also, how these events are organized. There's math on how all that works and how all that functions. And math to how many mythical Pokemon that you can get from that, right? If you're entering, I'm guessing one. Yeah, so that's the whole thing with mythical Pokemon. So they're on a pretty another level, on a different level than regular Pokemon. They're in that legendary realm, but not quite legendary. But over here in the West, we didn't know the difference until I don't remember when, but I know for a long time, for several generations, we just thought all legendary Pokemon were the same. There was no legendary and mythical split. Take Mewtwo and Mew. Mewtwo is legendary, Mew is mythical. But we didn't know that for a long time. And the idea was that Mew could be obtained at events. And again, we didn't know about any of that stuff back then. And there were so many things that people were saying about Mew, so much mystery. But my whole point is that there is a difference between legendary and mythical Pokemon. Although, if you call a mythical Pokemon legendary, I'm not gonna blame you. And it's it's barely a difference as far as I'm concerned. But there is something to be said about that. And then for pseudo legendary, these are Pokemon that are pretty powerful, but not quite legendary, right? They have really high stats though. In some cases, there are a few legendaries that they could surpass. But for a lot of people, they consider these pseudo legendaries to be the Pokemon who are around 600 base stat points. If you're looking at the total, and have 3 Pokemon in their evolutionary line and stuff like that. For the record, it's a fan term. For some people, they said that they have to have at least 1,250,000 experience points. But some people, they don't have that in their distinction. But math is used to help define that, define them. And if you're wondering for some examples, like Dragonite, Tyranitar, Metagross, Hydreigon, and if you notice, there's a lot of dragons in this. But for some Pokemon who it could be confusing for people whether they're pseudo legendary or not. There's Lucario, for instance. I don't know how many people would actually think that Lucario is pseudo legendary, but given how much status and prominence that Pokemon gets and how popular it is, some people may assume that, but it doesn't really meet the qualifications, and its base stats are 525. And for the record, that's still really good. So it's a really powerful Pokemon, and honestly, really cool design. But it's not a pseudo legendary. And for the pseudo legendaries, it's just crazy because like they're really powerful, but they're not legendary. And another thing that does come with the legendary is like the idea is like you're usually getting one of those in a game, right? So like the number that you're getting is restrictive. They usually don't have a gender. They usually don't evolve. That's changed over time because we have a few legendary Pokemon that evolve into more legendary Pokemon, but it's rare. But yeah, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to mention. Oh, yeah, just fun fact. Like Arcanine in its Pokédex is known as a legendary Pokemon. It is very much not legendary. It is a pretty good Pokemon though. It's not even pseudo legendary, but it's still pretty good. So yeah, I was trying to think if there was anything else, but not really. I think that ends it for this one. Legendary Pokemon are awesome, and again, numerically speaking, really powerful. Best of the best from the other creme. Personal preference though, that's up to you. Although a lot of people do like legendary Pokemon.